What if everything about the so-called cause of anti-racism is wrong? What if we're not asking the right questions from the beginning and already starting down the same path that the critical race theorists want us to be on? In other words, what if we are following their lead? We're on their journey. We're walking with them and trying to get them to leave the journey while joining them on the journey. Like, what if we're just already in the wrong place? I have to ask that question because, as I mentioned in my last video that I uploaded this morning, I feel like we are screaming into a hurricane as parents, as concerned educators, as taxpayers, as Americans, as individualists, as people who not only take pride in the aspirational classical liberal values upon which this country was built. And I do believe that to my core, that these were aspirational values. What I mean by that is, no, we did not live up to them day one. We didn't found a country because we'd already arrived. We decided, let's build a country that aspires to achieve this kind of freedom. It had never existed in humankind before. Never. Go back and study world history. You will not find a civilization that was as enlightened, as liberal. Never existed before in the history of humankind. Abraham Lincoln understood that. That's what the Gettysburg Address was about. And I believe in those values, but what if those of us who do are making a huge mistake in trying to defend them? We're letting the people trying to destroy them set the agenda and guide the conversation, lead the conversation. So we're always in a defensive posture. Always. We are accepting premises they've laid out for us without explicitly laying them out for us. And of course, they've got an answer for all of that. They're ready for that because it was their premise. What do I mean? You might be sitting there saying, okay, Deb, can you just get to the point? Because you're talking a lot of mumbo jumbo and I don't even know what you're talking about. All right, we can get straight to it. The other day, I was listening to this fabulous podcast I am embarrassed to say I had never heard of before, the Fifth Column podcast. I highly recommend you subscribe. It is fantastic. So the Fifth Column podcast is, now let me make sure I say the right thing about who these folks are, because they are fantastic. Okay, so we have Michael Moynihan, Matt Welch. He's editor-at-large at Reason. He's a national correspondent for Vice News. And Camille Foster, I hope I pronounced her name properly, a partner at Free Think. Okay, so these guys are great. And they hosted Paul Rossi the other day. You may remember Paul Rossi is the math teacher from Grace Church School in Manhattan who had the courage to stand up for his students and write that piece on Barry Weiss's Substack. He's now a volunteer with FAIR, amongst other things. I mean, he's not technically even fired, but he stood up against the anti-racist, critical race theory-based curriculum at his school. And, they asked him not to come back the next day, at least temporarily. We'll see what's going to happen with that. They caught his director, or the head of school, rather, admitting to demonizing the white students. So they had Paul Rossi on, and in the course of this wonderful conversation, which was really funny, when you think about what happened to Paul at the school, how they demonized him, put him on the spot, made him look like, I mean, it was almost like the Salem witch trials, the way they were talking about him within the school to the students and the way sympathetic students had to sneak around to talk to him after that. It's just insane. But the way he talks about it on the podcast with these guys, is it helps you feel okay and not like you're losing your mind, because they They found the humor in it because there was some, believe it or not. Paul Rossi said something so profound that I am going to repeat it here. I think I've already repeated it once or twice, thrown into a couple of my videos since I heard it, but I didn't credit him specifically, and I didn't spend any time on it, and I really want to do that. I want to say what he said, and I want you to think about it, and I want you to consider repeating it often to anyone who will listen. Let's make this thing stick. Here's what he said. He said, racism is real, but race is a lie. Why would we teach children a lie because some people believe it? Now think about that for a second. Racism is real. If you are a person who thinks critically and rationally, you know that racism is the thing you can never really get rid of. It'll be out there somewhere. There's darkness in the heart of man. I mean, it's just, it'll just be there. It's just one of the many, many biases and things that people can latch onto to explain away their pain or whatever. It's negative, it's evil, it's collectivist in nature. There's nothing good about it. Okay? So let's agree it's out there. And just like evil, you cannot eradicate it from the human experience. That is true. But race, the thing racists believe in, that there's this thing called race that's biological, intellectual, psychological, even to a degree cultural, which is ridiculous because when you think of all the different cultures, specific cultures, ethnicities, etc., that are black or, in which the people are dark-skinned or brown-skinned or black-skinned or whatever you want to call it, have a lot of melanin in their skin. When you think of that, it is utterly ridiculous what anyone believes if they believe that race is a real thing. That there's, white, black, and Asian, and these are races. The Nazis believed that Jews were a race of people. They added like a fourth one, okay? Race is an invention of racists. It's not that racists come out of the natural existence of race. There is no such thing. We are just human beings who have evolved biologically to look different and have different physical traits, eye colors, hair textures, etc., skin tones, based on the geographic region in which our ancestors lived and, reproduced and etc. That's it. That's it. Like, that's it. We're all humans. It's just, somebody stayed in one region and they're, over thousands and thousands of years, that particular level of melanin suited them well. And then others moved on and they didn't need it and they evolved away from it. Okay. But it in and of itself is not a real thing. There are literally walled segments of humans. There's one race, human race. There's literally no difference other than that. The rest of it is just evolution, evolutionary biology, nothing intrinsic. Okay. And his point is so important. We are now doing the equivalent in classrooms of teaching kids a lie. Let me analogize for you if you're still having trouble with it. I hope you're not. I hope I don't need to do this, but just in case. We know flat eartherism exists. That's a real thing. I hate to say that out loud, but yeah, that exists. There are people on this earth who believe the earth is flat and we've been lied to about it not being flat. Okay? I sometimes wonder if it started as a trolling exercise and somebody picked up on it and decided to believe in it. I don't know. But regardless, flat eartherism is a real thing. The earth is not flat, however. Just because a bunch of people believe that it's flat doesn't mean that it is. Doesn't make it a real thing that we need to discuss. We don't need to suddenly, to make sure our kids don't grow up to be flat earthers, we don't need to devote class time or put it into the curriculum or make it one of the state standards that our kindergartners will be able to tell us that the earth is not flat and be able to ridicule and lecture anybody who thinks that it is. We don't need to put that in there, do we? really. We don't need to spend all kinds of time on all the things that go into making a person susceptible to flat eartherism, do we? And let's say we even did. Let's just go there, because it's me and I do this. Let's say we did. Let's say we suddenly made it one of the top 10 priorities of public school education to make sure that our kids understood that flat eartherism is bad and anybody who believes in it is bad and terrible, and they need to spend a lot of time identifying themselves on the round versus flat matrix so they can go out and be anti-flat eartherist. Okay? Would that stop them completely from deciding someday to be a flat earther if they felt so inclined? Got hit on the head by something heavy? I don't know. No, it would not. No, it would not. It really wouldn't. I mean, it would disincline them towards it, maybe, most likely. But so would teaching them geography using a globe. So would just teaching them reality. You don't need to teach a negative, this thing. These people who believe this stuff we think is silly or stupid, or, we need to spend a lot of time talking about that to make sure you don't also believe it. This thing you never even knew existed and isn't even real, That's the point. Race isn't real. And then you might say to me, but Deb, they can look and see that somebody has a different skin color. And so what? So what? You can teach them how to be a person who notices things like that and becomes curious and asks questions like, you don't look like me. Why don't you look like me? And then you can have a conversation. Well, my grandparents came from a different place than your great-grandparents or grandparents or whatever. And because of that, different things were going on. And, science, evolution, things that are real, things we want our kids to leave school knowing about happened. And so we get to today after thousands and thousands and thousands of years, tens of thousands of years, and I have brown skin and you do not. You have your skin because your ancestors they needed instead to have lots and lots of hair so they could stay warm and, freezing cold climates and things and stuff. And now the kid goes, that's super cool. The people that you come from were super smart. Their bodies were really smart that they evolved it to be like this so that you could live and be here today and be my friend. Oh, that's really cool. My ancestors, okay. And it's not something they did. It's their bodies were smart because their bodies were smart. Biology's pretty freaking smart. Let's teach them to get excited about biology. Let's teach them to get excited about evolution. Let's teach them to get excited about the diversity of life and nature. You go outside and we have so many different kinds of flowers and trees and plants and animals and everything for the exact same reason. Why not go that way? Do you think those two kids are going to end up feeling any animosity towards each other when they're adults? Or you think they're going to maybe be inclined to learn more about science and how it works and, what else can we do to help people survive and have great lives? This is awesome information. And you know what? Now I'm actually much more interested in reading and science and other cool things, even history, because I didn't know this kind of thing was possible. And this is awesome. No, we don't do that, do we? We make this thing that is, as I just described, an immutable characteristic that nobody really chose or anything to do with. It's just this beauty of nature that resulted in the beauty of all of us. No, we're going to teach him there's this ugly thing called race. And some people believe it defines you. So it does. So it does. So it defines you because some people think that it does. We're going to say that it does. That's how we're going to fight that evil thought, is we're going to teach you about it a lot. We're going to spend hours on it. Yeah, we're going to have you assign that to yourself. We're going to have you be racist towards yourself. And we're going to have you be racist towards him and her and this and that. Oh, but don't call them him and her because that's also another problem because some people don't believe in biology, that they were actually born a specific biological gender. So because some people have that condition, we need to teach you that it's a new reality. You need to change your reality. You need to change your vernacular. You need to change all of your views of reality to conform to our pseudo reality. And parents just sit there and go, but isn't this fighting racism? Does that sound like it's fighting racism to you? So Paul Rossi's statement got me thinking about other questions aside from the race one. And when I say questions, I mean, flip it around. If you went to the district and you were starting from the right place. In other words, not heading on down the path with them to say, well, can you tell me why you're, what this curriculum, back up. What is race? Mr. School Board Chairman? We, the parents, would like to know what race is. We'll wait. And if they just stare blankly at you, what do you mean you know what race is? No, I want to know what you think it is. I know what I think it is. I want to know what you think it is because you're the one setting policy and procedure and pedagogy for this district. So can you tell me what race is? Can you give me some references for that opinion? I'm dying to know. Just tell me what it is. How about, okay, so how do you know who's black and white? How are you going to decide who the white children are, the black children are, the Asian children are? How will you decide that? If you ask the children, if your answer is you're going to ask the children to find themselves on these things, and what if they don't know? Are you going to tell them? What if they say, I don't know? Are you going to hold up like a little Pantone color card? Like, tell me what your process is going to be to identify who your white students are and who your black students are. What if we, the parents, all just didn't check off the demographic information when registering our kids? What if we stopped doing that? What would race be then? How would you decide? And what if you disagree? What if my daughter says, well, I'm black? What you gonna do? You gonna tell her she's not? Why? On the basis of what? Are you saying then that race is pigment? That's what it is. That you are judging people by the color of their skin. Is that what I'm hearing? That race is pigment. So pigment defines who my child is. Okay, thanks for telling me. Okay, so is white a race then? I mean, by your definition of race, what is white a race? Yes or no? And if the answer is yes, please explain. And if the answer is no, explain why not. And does that correlate with your definition of race in general? This is why you wait till after the what is race question, because you'll get some very interesting looks when they give you a definition of race and then tell you that white isn't a race, which is likely what they're going to do. But you need to ask these questions. How about, what are the characteristics of white and black? So if somebody is mixed race, but they look pigmented, like more what you're defining as black, what goes with that? What's blackness? Can you explain what characteristics black people have? Or are we literally just stuck on pigment? And if we're stuck on pigment, why are we wasting all kinds of instructional time on pigment? Dying to hear what they say the characteristics of blackness are. Okay, so what are the characteristics of whiteness? I'm really curious about this one. Now, I bring this one up specifically because the Smithsonian, the Museum of the History of African Americans, etc., came up with an answer to that question last summer. And it was this lovely infographic, which I'll go through in just a moment. Thank goodness it's there for posterity. Did someone take a picture of it? I have one too in case this ever goes away. People got upset. They still have a whole whiteness section on the website for this museum, by the way. I'll put the link in the description box. And so they took it down. And here's what they said about taking it down. At the National Museum of African American History and Culture, we believe that any productive conversation on race must start with honesty, respect for others, and an openness to ideas and information that provide new perspectives. In that context, we recently unveiled Talking About Race, an online portal providing research studies and other academic materials from the fields of history, education, psychology, and human development. Hint, spoiler alert, there's nothing in there that actually defines race. Our goal in doing so was to contribute to a discussion on the vitally important subject that millions of Americans are grappling with. Since yesterday, certain content on the Talking About Race portal has been the subject of questions that we have taken seriously. We have listened to public sentiment and have removed a chart that does not contribute to the productive discussion we had intended. The site's intent and purpose are to foster and cultivate conversations that are respectful and constructive and provide increased understanding. That long story short is people got really pissed off. And when you see this graphic, you'll see why. Okay. But they just took the graphic down. They kept most of the sentiment behind it, most of the verbiage behind it, and all the Robin DiAngelo videos that go with it. That's still out there. They just took this down. But let's take a look at what they say white culture and whiteness is, okay? White dominant culture, or whiteness, refers to the ways white people and their traditions, attitudes, and ways of life have been normalized over time and are now considered standard practices in the United States. And since white people still hold most of the institutional power in America, we have all internalized some aspects of white culture, including people of color. Now let's look at some of the buzzwords in there, okay? The white people, first of all. This goes back to what is race? What is white? What are white people? How are you not stereotyping? How are you not lumping people together and seeing individuals as members of groups alone and not individual? If we really are a melting pot and I'm the product of, Irish Catholics and Lithuanian Jews, coming together and then, like people escaping different things, whatever, and that produced me and that but very different backgrounds. I'm pretty sure I have relatives on my dad's side going back, let's say 2-3 generations that don't even look all that white. But no, whiteness, white people, we're all just the same. We're just, this group, this lump. I'm exactly the same as a person from Appalachia whose relatives came here 300 years ago. Yeah, we're just exactly the same because of our skin color. It is ludicrous on its face. But let's look at what they say is white people culture. Rugged individualism, family structure, the nuclear family, emphasis on the scientific method, objective, rational, linear thinking, cause and effect relationships, history-based and Northern European immigrants' experience. This is also a lie because even when I was a kid, we were learning about Black history and things like that. Even before there was Black History Month, we were learning about the history of slavery and so forth. So whatever. Heavy focus on the British Empire because that's where the country came from. All right. Protestant work ethic, this just isn't even true. It's work ethic, period. Whether it's Protestant or not, it remains to be seen. There's work ethic in cultures all over the world. Just look at China. Asian duty culture has work ethic all over it. Religion, Christianity is norm. Not anymore and hasn't been for many, many decades. Okay, don't know what you're talking about. Anything other than Judeo-Christian tradition is foreign. Not true. It just so happens that our system of laws, as it has been in all Western culture, has been influenced by Judeo-Christian theology, but we are not a Judeo-Christian culture. And I say that to the right as well as the left. Status, power, and authority, wealth equals worth, your job is who you are. This isn't white culture. This is just asshole culture. I mean, if you walk around believing that's materialism, if you believe that your wealth equals your worth and your job is who you are, that is not whiteness. It has nothing to do with being white. There are people who believe this, and if you think it's bad, let's have a conversation about it, but it has nothing to do with the color of my skin. If it's true, then I'm worthless because I have no wealth. Future orientation, plan for the future, delayed gratification, progress, tomorrow will be better. This sounds like maturity to me. Time, follow rigid time. Time is viewed as a commodity. By the way, punctuality is also one aspect of that. The aesthetic part is nonsense. Holidays, justice, based on English common law. What alternative would you like? Would you like Sharia? What other version of law would you like to have in America? This is a bad thing. This is based on whiteness. Competition, again, asshole culture, be number one, win at all costs, winner loser dichotomy, blah, blah, blah. Must always do something about a situation. Sounds like progressives to me. There are solutions in search of problems all day, every day. Communication, the King's English rules. The King's English? We haven't had the King's English in this country for 200 years. Get a grip. The written tradition. Yeah, we communicate using writing. Avoid conflict, intimacy. Avoiding intimacy? Again, asshole culture, not white culture. Don't show emotion. What? They lumping up. Be polite. So we lump in avoid conflict, which is good. Avoid intimacy, which is bad. That's like they're equal. They're on the same par. And then be polite is somehow bad. And then get this guy. That's too bad. I think this chart is accurate. Anyway, but getting back to my questions. since you've now seen this, and since this was last summer, this is the basis of all of their whiteness stuff. This came right out of the head of Robin DiAngelo. She's a big part of whiteness studies, okay? So now my question for the school board would be, what is specifically bad about punctuality, and would you be okay with my student arriving whenever they feel like arriving during the school day? Because if punctuality is part of whiteness and white culture, and we're trying to dismantle white supremacy, then can we start the school day like earlier, later, whenever I feel like it? Just show up when it's good for me, my kid. It's like, can they leave too when they feel like it? Is that right? Will that work for you guys? No? Why not? What's bad about punctuality? How about the written word, the written tradition? So my child doesn't really like to write. They want to take all of their exams orally, and they're not going to write any assignments ever again because they want to fully dismantle whiteness. So that'll be okay with you, right? They're not even going to learn to write. In fact, they're going to just dictate everything from now on because what's the point? It's white. We can't have that. Explain to me what is bad about the written tradition. Are you saying we need to learn more about the oral tradition of storytelling? Okay. As long as you're going to include how inefficient a means of communication it is in a modern society, that if you have to literally orally explain everything to people, you don't have a way to reproduce the information unless everything is a recording, and many people don't have time to listen to a recording or find other people's voices annoying or are deaf. Seems kind of ableist to me. Objective science and reason is a problem. Why? What other kind is there? Would you like to have taken a vaccine for the virus that was developed and discovered without objective science and reason? A bunch of people got together in a room and they decided that they should throw some essential oils together, and they waved their hands over them and said some incantations and some prayers and, rubbed some crystals together and burned some special roots and stuff and said, vaccine. And they believe it's a vaccine. They believe it works. It comes from their culture. Would you take it? Or do you want to see clinical trials? I'm just wondering, just curious. What if the people who created the vaccine were chosen not for their scientific ability, but because they were the right color? We can't have white people doing it. So we'll do the science thing, but we're going to make sure all the scientists doing it have brown skin because we want to dismantle the whiteness of this vaccine development. And rather than looking at their credentials and their epidemiological experience and their success rate with their, other work making medicines, you just went out and found people who were busy and they were brown and had them develop a vaccine. Would that work for you? Or if we waited until we could educate and find the people who were brown enough to do it. But I'm sorry, guys. I know more people are going to die, but we need to wait for some brown people because we can't have whiteness involved in the development of this medicine. Does that make sense to you? So how about what the heck is wrong with any of this stuff? Looks a whole lot like what makes for successful, prosperous, peaceful, polite society to me. With the exception of some other junk thrown in to make it look bad, things that are objectively questionable, but are usually wrapped up in individuals having individual character flaws, not in a culture. So I'm also curious how it accepts or rejects the lived experience. And can we talk about lived experience for a second? I'm sorry to back up here suddenly, but aren't all experiences lived? How many dead people having experiences? I mean, again, are we into the mystical? Are we having seances? What? But how does it reject or deny the experience of any Black person to simply not spend an inordinate amount of time on people, let's say, in American history, simply because they were Black, if they did not make a major contribution to that history? I mean, school is 9 months, guys, and we got this amount of time in the day to cover it. One would think you would like us to teach the people and the lives and the experiences of those who had objectively, measurably a lot to do with it. Now, I'm not saying that we've included all the people who had a lot to do with it. I'd like to see a whole lot more Frederick Douglass. I'd like to see a whole lot more of other people in, leading up to the civil rights movement. Absolutely. I'd like it not to be crammed into February. And I'm white, and I say that. Go figure. But that's a far cry from saying we got to give it equal time. No, we can't. As a practical matter, we're going to end up not teaching them something important or about someone important, not because we're elevating that person to hero status, but because their specific contributions mattered and their words mattered and their words carry meaning to this day about what we should value and respect and preserve and protect. But it's not because they're white. It's just because they happen to be the people who did it. And I have this big list. I literally wrote it in my little notebook here. And back to the lived experience thing. If we're supposed to respect the experiences, I hate saying lived experience, it makes no sense. They're not dead experiences. If the experiences of Black people and the voices of Black people are to be respected, heard, we're not supposed to white-splain, we're not supposed to talk over, we're not supposed to interrupt, we're not supposed to, that's white supremacy talking, right? Then what the hell was that happened to Tim Scott? And I'd like to ask the school board. So if you're trying to make sure that my child doesn't take up too much space with their whiteness in the classroom, explain to me how that works exactly. Like, give me the mechanics of my kid being white, taking something away from the kid who's Black just by their presence. Explain. Please. Because I'm guessing that's the purpose of all of this. And going back to that, what is the purpose for all of this again? School board? Can you show me the examples of all the racist activity that's happened in this school? Were there racist attacks? Were there racial slurs? Where are the racist teachers that you had to get rid of? Who were they? Did we know them? Were they there last year? Who are these teachers that have to completely change the way they teach and change everything because they were so racist? What were those racist behaviors? Can you explain? And why didn't we hear more about it? Why are they still working here? I mean, racism is evil. Furthermore, where the heck have you people been since the civil rights movement? I mean, why did you allow this to go on? If the results are the proof of racism, the fact that these kids can't read and they can't do math and the test scores are going down and so forth. I mean, why did you do that? Why did you do that? Why aren't you the ones just going off and getting retrained? Why aren't you all quitting and resigning and having us hire brand new people? Because you were all part of it. Are you saying we just didn't know? We didn't know? Or maybe it's because it's not true. Maybe correlation isn't causation. That's what I was taught when I went to school. So, I'd really like to see the evidence justifying the implementation of any of this anti-racist stuff. And I really want to know why the white kids are responsible for the achievement gaps. How does white kid success cause an achievement gap for a Black kid? And why did you, the schools, allow it? And where's the evidence that you know that that's the reason that they're doing poorly on the tests? Do you have any evidence of that at all? Have you changed any of your other teaching methods? I see this giant infusion of curriculum that's taking a lot of time and costing a lot of money. And my kid's coming home really anxious and feeling upset and feeling guilty and feeling all kinds of negative things. But have you changed how you teach reading? And I don't mean removing the books that were written by white people. Have you changed the way you teach reading? Because I'm pretty sure the 3rd and 4th graders who are Black, who are struggling to read, are not struggling because they picked up the book and said, I am not reading this. It was written by a white person. Strong hunch. I'm also pretty sure if you handed them a book written by a Black person, they wouldn't suddenly magically have literacy. Nor do I believe that if you use the exact same method of teaching reading and gave them books only written by Black people about Black people, that they would magically have learned to read using your existing methods. And the reason I say that is that Frederick Douglass, a slave, learned to read the Bible. That Judeo-Christian Bible that is so terrible and so racist. And yet, he took great pride in being able to read it. So I'm also very curious, school board, how is it that we do have Black honor students in this terribly white supremacist culture? Not only Black honor students, we have had at least 2 Black Supreme Court justices. We have one right now. We've had a Black president, at least half Black, but still. We have a Black senator from South Carolina who was, as I just mentioned, abused in very racist ways the other day, and explained the mechanics to us parents of how a conservative Black person is racist and bad, but a Democrat or left-leaning Black person is fully Black and good. It's all good. That Black people have to have certain, it sounds to me like Black people have to have certain views in order to actually be not white. Is that how it works? Or does this school recognize the full range of opinions and viewpoint diversity for children of every conceivable melanin level? Because I'm not really picking up on that. And finally, I'm sort of curious, what jobs are the students going to be prepared for when you dismantle all this whiteness? How do you envision society is going to work when we don't put a high value on punctuality, work ethic, politeness, individualism, being individually responsible for your own success and things like what? Can you help me understand the civilization, the society that you're preparing our children for with these ideas? Because these are ideas, you understand. They're not just ideas. They're ideas that completely fly in the face of everything the United States has stood for its entire existence. So I want to hear you say, school board, that you are okay with that you look at the Declaration of Independence and you read, all men are created equal, endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And then tell me you no longer believe that. That you no longer believe that each unique individual in America is endowed with inalienable rights, period, regardless of skin color. Because it sounds to me like what you're saying is you don't believe that. You don't believe that white people have those rights because of their skin color. That's kind of what I'm pulling out of this conversation. So can you tell me how I'm wrong? How am I wrong? Tell me how you are going to teach our children that being responsible for themselves, having skills, being on time, and being polite is a good way to go. Because I think it is. Parents, you with me? Do you think it is? Do you want your kids to be polite, punctual, work hard, be responsible for themselves, pay their bills, be law-abiding, treat everyone they meet with respect, be humble, not be arrogant jerks, entitled little spoiled brats? Do we all agree? Okay, we all agree. Can you explain to me how teaching them all this stuff is whiteness and whiteness is bad and they need to decenter that and step away and they have to be white without being white? How that's going to work for our kids? What jobs are you preparing them for exactly? School board member? Teacher? Or what? Sounds like activist, but I'm still unclear. Activist for what? I get what y'all are against. Totally got it. You're against the preservation of Western Enlightenment civilization, liberal values, individualism, capitalism. Totally. I'm picking up on that. I am. Science, objectivity. It sounds like you really would like to go back to the primitive, actually. It sounds a whole lot like what you're hoping to do is basically tear the country down and then see what you do next. Then figure it out. And you're figure it out then. Am I wrong? Because that's really what this leads to. There's no other outcome if you continue to do this. So am I wrong? Please tell me how I'm wrong. Explain to me where you're going to go with this curriculum. And what are the beliefs and values you want my child to have? Because my kid already isn't a racist. My kid already doesn't think that people are intrinsically different from him who look different. I covered that when he was 2. She was 2. Whatever. They played at the playground and they have friends. So, mission accomplished. Live in a neighborhood that's really diverse. Mission accomplished. We live in a society that's already, by my estimation, everyone join me in this? You all agree? Yeah. We're pretty anti-racist as it is. We see people treating people badly, like how Tim Scott was treated the other day. And we jump right on that and say, that's not okay. That's not okay. That's backwards. That's rude. It's nasty. It's really primitive. It's not enlightened. Yeah. So we already live in that society. So what society are you trying to make? Just curious. So are you getting what I'm saying, folks? You got to ask better questions. And don't get stuck on it's Marxist, etc. I mean, notice I didn't, until the very, very end, I didn't start saying that it sounds like you want to dismantle the society and blah, blah, blah. I didn't start off with, it's a socialism. There's clink. And you sound like a political tool. No. What is race? How do you know? Where's your evidence? That's my point. I hope you find this useful. I really, really do. Please make note of Paul Rossi's comment. Repeat it to yourself over and over. Make a freaking bumper sticker. We need that. The world needs Paul Rossi bumper stickers. Racism is real. Race is a lie. Why are we teaching a lie to children? Because some people believe it. Boom. That should be on a t-shirt. Make it happen, people. That's all I had to say. Thank you for watching.